הוא זה מלך הכבוד, השם צבאות הוא מלך הכבוד, זה אליו.
Every year, my husband travels with our older children to North America to visit our families. And every year, I stay home with the babies. I decided a few years ago that traveling with babies, with little children, is just too difficult. And thank God, our families also come and visit us in Israel several times a year. This year, I'm staying in Israel for 2 weeks with just one child, with my son, with my baby Yoel. But there's one huge drawback to this trip. My husband's family have a cottage on a lake in Ontario. And once a year, they go there for a whole week. And my kids and my husband look forward to this trip the whole year. They spend time with family and they build fires and they go swimming and they catch frogs and they love it. But probably as much as they love it, I hate it. I hate that they go there because for a whole week, I cannot communicate with my family. I said this once to somebody and she said, "What, you mean like there's no Skype at the cottage?" No, I don't mean that there's no Skype at the cottage. I mean that there's no phone line. I mean that there's no reception for a cell phone. I mean that there's no email. I mean that there's no way for a whole week that I can be in touch with my family. It means that I can't call my kids and say, "So what do you have for breakfast today?" It means I can't say to them, Shabbat Shalom before Shabbat. It means I can't, call them and say, "Oh, are the mosquitoes bothering you?" The other day I was having a tough day and I couldn't call my husband. I couldn't say, "I'm having a tough day," and I didn't have anyone who could say to me, "Oh, it's going to be okay." I'm totally cut off from them. And it's really tough. It's very, very sad for me. But something, I guess, one advantage of this 1 week apart is that when my family finally does come home, I appreciate them so much. I appreciate every little thing. I appreciate that in the mornings I can say to my daughter, "Have a great day at school." And when she gets home I can say, "How do you like your new teacher?" Or "How do you like the peanut butter sandwich that I made you?" Any little thing. Or that if the sink gets clogged up, I can call my husband and say, "What should we do?" I appreciate every little interaction with my family. It makes it sweet. Makes it so sweet, every little thing. I believe very, very strongly that the main source of happiness is learning to have gratitude in our lives for the little things. About a year and a half ago, I read an amazing book that I highly recommend to everyone. It's called Finding Light in the Darkness by Rabbi Shaul Rosenblatt. And he writes about a very sad story. He was married to a young woman named Ilana. They had 4 children together, and Ilana was a wonderful person, and she was always doing acts of kindness, and she was a very devoted wife and a very, very devoted mother. And when she was only 30 years old, she developed breast cancer, and 3 years later, she passed away. So his whole book is about, like the title suggests, finding light in the darkness. How during this dark time, they were able to maintain joy and a connection with God. So he explains that they decided that 5 times a day, they would sit down and together have gratitude. 5 times a day, they would sit together and say 5 things that they're grateful for. They would say, for example, "Thank you, God, that today on the way to chemo, when we were walking there, it was such beautiful weather. Thank you, God, that we have 4 healthy children. Thank you, God, that we have such a happy marriage. Thank you, God, that we have such a supportive community which has supported us so amazingly throughout this whole ordeal. Thank you, God, that we have you that we can turn to in prayer." And Rabbi Rosenblatt says this amazing thing. It's something, it just haunts me, and I remember it always to this day. That several days before Ilana died, she could barely breathe, and she gasped for air. She woke up her husband in the middle of the night, and as she gasped, she said, "I am so blessed." And Rabbi Rosenblatt explains that, before she developed cancer, Ilana hadn't been a person who was so incredibly grateful all the time or who was so incredibly joyful at all times. But because she had to work on it so hard in this time of darkness, they realized how accessible happiness is. She taught herself how to be a truly joyful person. And since I read this book, it's really, really changed my life, because now also at regular intervals throughout the day, I take a moment to be grateful. Every morning that I wake up, I say 10 things that I'm grateful for. And it's very, very simple things. Thank you, God, that I have children. Thank you, God, that I'm married. Thank you, God, that I live in Jerusalem. Thank you, God, that I have wonderful parents. Thank you, God, that I have a healthy body. Thank you, God, that I always have money for food. I say these things, and it really makes me realize no matter what irritating thing or upsetting thing or frustrating thing is happening in my life, or no matter, how down I'm feeling about one thing or another, doing this just makes me feel like I'm a billionaire. And every person, no matter what her life situation, no matter how many difficulties she's going through, can always take this time. If you take the time and you do 10 things you're happy for, 10 things you're grateful for. It's unbelievable how it can pull you out of any funk and bring you true happiness, and feeling truly, truly grateful to God for everything that we have. So I want to bless all of us that even at the toughest moments, that we should know how to feel happy through feeling true gratitude for big things and also small ones. Have an amazing week.
מיהו זה מלך הכבוד, השם צבאות מלך הכבוד, סלע. מיהו זה מלך הכבוד, השם צבאות מלך הכבוד, סלע.